Ready?
Round one.
Hey, I'm Marcel the Loser. Welcome back to the channel. Unless, of course, this is your first time here, in which case, I don't know, take your shoes off. Your shoes are dirty. We're here today with Rick Duree. Is that correct?
You got it.
Rick Duree. That's right. Rick Duree to showcase his new game that he's a part of, or it's like a indie comic mashup. It's like Marvel Comics meets, not Marvel Comics, Marvel vs. Capcom meets indie comics, and yeah, here to talk about that. So tell me, Rick, what's it like being a part of this project?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the indie movement. I was the founder of the Heroic Awards.
What's that?
So we sponsor only publishers that are less than 1% of the market.
Okay.
So not Boom Studios or Dynamite or Image, but all the indies that are on Kickstarter. And there's I don't know 3,000 Kickstarters of comics across all the different platforms every year. So we have a large amount of stories that are getting lost. And so I decided to, with my team, gather all these books, those who want to participate, and put them in a real competition, because I really want to see indie succeed. And to do that, we have to pull the diamonds in the rough and showcase them to people so they can really get the good stories and the good art, etc. And when I was doing that, I met up with Ares, who is the creator of Vigilante Combat, which is this indie fighter video game, going to be on Steam. Kickstarter launching this month for it. We have some video and we have some pictures for you to see, but the end result is the quality is super high, and the characters that are fighting are all from the indie comics. So we have some big names in there and some fun comics. You not only support the game, but you also support the writing and the art in the books themselves. So you back once, you're backing 20 people at the same time. It's a really cool project, and it's all in from Ares, the artist's mind. He does the coding, he does the artwork in the game, the 3D artwork. He does all the functionality and the moves. And the writers, like myself, my character from Orphan Bloodline, my series is in there. We give Ares a lot of input, and then he takes it and he grows it for us. So really a cool team up. There must be something like 20 creators in there. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about how many characters are in the game as of now.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna have 16 characters, but we're also gonna have support characters. We're gonna have a lot of NPCs, and then we're gonna do a round 2 where there's more of an RPG, like Big World kind of a thing. So there's a lot of movement in the future. This first iteration that we're in beta right now, this is gonna be the fighting aspect, 1v1, 3v3, a training mode, an arcade mode where you can go through like in the old Street Fighter game and learn your history, back history of the characters. You're going to be able to do that too in this first iteration. Once we get past this in the Kickstarter, we go to the RPG and we go to the more like, if you think of the game Infamous, for instance, using your superpowers and going through a town and killing the bad guys. That kind of a game will be coming out in iteration 2. So we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to use only indie characters, only indie stories, only indie crowdfunding, and then Steam. We eventually will be on PS5 and Xbox One.
Okay, so that is the end goal, to make it to major consoles.
Yeah. We won't be able to get onto Nintendo because they have a lot of barriers, but PS5 and Xbox One, probably iteration 2, 2.0 will be on there.
What are these kind of barriers you speak of?
Well, Nintendo, they want their games to have a certain look. They want them to have a certain feel. They want their audience to know they're going to get, G and PG types of games. And this is more towards, there's blood, there's finishing moves, so it's not as easy to get into Nintendo.
Right. Okay, I get you. So that makes sense. It's more, so it's like more of a Mortal Kombat vibe versus
So if you take the best of all the game sets, you mentioned Marvel versus Capcom. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Mortal Kombat with the blood and the finishing moves. That's correct. I mentioned Street Fighter with the arcade mode to get the back of his story of the characters. That's correct. And then the actual game fighting reminds us a lot of Killer Instinct back from the 90s. With the 13 hit combos and that kind of thing, where you're hitting them up the wall, and they have to fall back down.
Yeah, I saw the video you sent me where it's like what was it, about like 47 hit combo. I'm like, I gotta be honest, I'd just dropped the controller at that point. Like around 30, around 36, 30. Like once the hit combo goes past my age, I think it's like, okay, I forfeit. It's all good. You got it. You got it.
Yeah. And all that graphics and movement was all done by Ares. He has special. See, all of us creators, we never thought our character would be in a video game, right? So we never envisioned, what would my finishing move be? Brutality, what would it look like? And we just didn't really put that together. So right now we're doing that creation with Ares and getting a lot of input. If our character, like mine from Orphan Bloodline, if he has guns, then he has guns in the game. If he has an axe, he has an axe in the game. And so we're bringing the characters their true skins and weapons and personalities into the game. So you're going to get good stories, which I think is something that's really been missing a lot in the fighter genre. We had stories back in the 90s when the characters first came out, but how many fighting games have there been in the last 20 years? I mean, just redos of the old ones. So it's time for this to be refreshed, we think.
Yeah. And it's like, it's funny you say that. I watch this YouTuber called Thorgy's Arcade. Have you heard of that?
No.
So he sort of like details. He does these retrospectives on fighting games, and one of my favorite parts of the video is when he talks about the story mode for the game. So it's like he goes into what each character's ending is at the end of the arcade ladder and all those different things. Like it's watching the history of story modes in fighting games just evolve through the years. It is nice it's really refreshing when you see that these characters aren't just, devices for beating other people up, but they're actually, there's a purpose to them being involved with everybody else that's in the game. It does make it count more.
And there was this is something that's really cool about being an indie program is we can take comments and feedback from the audience, from the supporters. One podcast I did last week, they were really giving us good feedback. The comments were giving us some good ideas. And one of them said we should do, a crossover where all the characters in the game are in a comic book together too, not just the other way around, but actually have our universe come together. And one of, the name of the company that Ares built is called Megaverse Entertainment. And so this is its own universe, and we could do a crossover like that. So these are the ideas we want to get from our fans in the community and see what we can put together for them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but first I wanted to ask you, could you tell me more about your character and their stories? You said was called what again?
Orphan Bloodline. The character's name is Ace. He was abducted. He has a blood disorder. Little do you know, the blood disorder actually is a blood power, and it's trying to be harnessed by the secret society. And he has to deal with the hardships of life and growing in strength while being in the underworld of China. He's part German, part American, and now he's in China and doesn't speak a language. And the barriers there as a teenage guy, and then also his blood disorder, which is also now being turned into or harnessed by the secret society to be a blood power. There's drama, and there's some fighting, and there's some character development, and there's some world building, a lot of world building. So that's kind of my world in a nutshell. There's tons of characters, and hopefully I'll have a couple of them in the game or in iteration 2.0 for Vigilant.
How long is the story at this point? Like, what issue are you on?
Yeah, so we're doing the third issue in art right now, but I've written 17, 18 comics issues. It's just that we have to get the artwork done one by one. That's the slow down. So we're working on it, and the cool thing about my world is that it does tie into a lot of past stories that go back hundreds of years. So I have side stories from the Middle Ages, Black Plague era, and I have side stories for feudal Japan. And these side stories are where the blood powers interacted with those cultures and how then it came to impact our main character today. So there's a lot of deep flashbacks like that. So.
Okay, like we talking like Naruto flashbacks? We going that deep, like Naruto filler flashbacks?
I think sure, yeah, I think so.
Oh wow!
It's based in our current world, but it's an alt history. So any blood disorder that you've run into in your life is actually from the gods as a blood power if you're able to harness it. Now it might kill you like a blood disorder does, but it might also be your strength. And so the story follows characters and how they harness what would be otherwise a weakness into a strength, and how they use it to achieve their ends. If they're a villain, which is totally cool, they're doing their villain stuff, and if they're a hero, then they're trying to overcome and bring peace to the world or what have you. So
I feel like that would be a PR disaster as a hero. Like, what's your power? Oh, it's like blood magic. Blood? Like, no, it's cool. Where are you getting this blood from? No, it's my blood. You're throwing your blood on people? That sounds very unsanitary. Like, I feel like that's an uphill battle as a hero.
yeah, you got it right, actually. It's supposed to stand out a little bit as odd. The main character, his body holds too much metal. He has no way of getting the metal out of his body. So whatever he eats, he's getting more metal, and they have to do more dialysis. And he's dialysing all the time. And it's really painful and costs a lot of money for his parents. He's thinking about, ending his life. And then he ends up being strong because he's advised by his family morals that he has to, bear up under his burdens and really, become a hero in his own life. That's his family's motto. And so he decides to go ahead and stick with it. And in doing so, they get him a trip to China for some special secret medical testing. Of course, they do that in Wuhan. Why not? That's the place they do this stuff, right? So he goes over to Wuhan, but then his parents are killed and he's abducted because he has the blood. He has the right genetics. And what that does is they attach these bracers onto his wrist, and these bracers suck the blood out and diffuse it right there on his wrist, take the metal away, and put the blood back in his blood. So now he's no more in pain. No, it's like microdialysis on his wrist, like a watch there. But now this metal is out of his body, and he can use that as automatic bullets to shoot. So he's shooting blood bullets, metal from his own body, until he runs out of metal. So he has to eat a lot more now. And so now he's like going in reverse. So now I don't have this food issue where I was avoiding. Now I'm getting bulkier and stronger. And now I'm fighting for the underworld, and I don't really like them. They killed my parents, and I have to get back at them. And there's a whole dynamic.
Yeah, it sounds like a very well thought out power system. Is that like the power system for your story, or do other people do different things in the story?
Oh yeah, everybody does something different. Yeah, every blood disorder that I can think of, and I've talked to a lot of scientists and trying to use a lot of like med websites on the internet and Wikipedia, trying to get all these different blood disorders, and then how do they affect the person in real life, and then in a fantasy world, what's a slight to the right or to the left of that disorder, and how can I make it to a power? So one of them is the macrophages that bring oxygen to your blood and to your body. Well, these are super macrophages, and so they bring a lot of oxygen to the body. Well, that helps the body heal faster. So there's a minor healing factor for that character. Not like a Wolverine level, obviously, but there's also a character how we absorb vitamin D, from the sun. Mm-hmm. We create some kind of cholesterol or what have you, and it goes to the skin and it absorbs the vitamin D into our skin. Well, this it's a special cholesterol or what have you that absorbs soul energy. So when someone dies near him, he absorbs part of their soul into his body and heals him. So there's different types of blood disorders that I've modulated from their original to give them some kind of a superpower. And I mean, all that stuff is cool. I love all that stuff. It's actually pretty fun to do, but the characters have to be compelling. You can't just have the powers being cool. The character has to be somebody you want to go back and read about. And so that's where the difficulty in comics, a lot of comic creators don't think of that. They think, okay, cool magic power, cool world, cool costume, done. And that's not how it works. You can have the worst art and the worst costume, but if the character makes the reader want to read it more, then you're going to sell books.
Mm-hmm. One more question about your comment before we pull it back to the game. I was thinking as you're explaining all this, like one of the comics I've been reading on the channel is called actually Vigilantes,
Yeah.
and I was one thing I've noticed in the story so far is they do a lot of telling versus showing, and I'm like, so I'd be curious to know how you plan to, or how you have gone about showing instead of telling when it comes to this
Yeah.
very detailed power system.
So wants to start their own comic. This is the secret. When you're trying to save money on your art, which everybody tries to do, and you're writing up your panel, but you're paying as as little as you can afford, the artist is going to do what they do, and oftentimes the story won't be shown. They'll try to impose what you told them to draw, but they'll do it with their take on it, and it doesn't come together that seamlessly. It's kind of it can be choppy. So
Mm-hmm.
you do get what you pay for when it comes to the art. If you want your art to be telling the story versus the words, which definitely I agree with, then you have to find the artist who you want to get behind, and that may take you 6 months. If you want to jump in there and do it now, you might choose the wrong guy or girl. And then this is kind of how indie comics goes. Let me show you the comic though. Here's the character. This has a holographic cover, so it's hard to see, but you can see how he has his bracers, and they end up being balanced with magnetism, and that's what shoots his gun. Is this railgun has magnetic power to shoot the bullets. It's anyway. We won't get into it anymore, but I do love it. Here's a villain, and the villain actually is one of my favorites. He has a dragon tattoo. He has a big sword. When I was getting
he leaned in. You said blood powers, say less. I got you. Getting a
the thing is,
tattoo, I'm gonna rock this thing.
yeah, the thing is this guy here is the villain. He's a Chinese warlord, and this guy is the American German, main character, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But most people who read the book think that the villain is the best character that I created, and it could be he could be. But when I was getting it printed, and I was getting printed over in China because that's just where it's cheap, and they wouldn't print it. They refused my money because the villain was Chinese, and they just wouldn't have their country have the villain be Chinese. It was really a weird cultural conflict between strict capitalism. Hey, let's just print this book and make some money. To, well, is the book telling the story that our country wants you to tell? It's weird. It was a weird go through 3 or 4 different publishers because the first 2 or 3 wouldn't do it. The fourth one, I had to convince that this guy has a redemption arc, and he ends up not being a villain. He's just the ends justify the means kind of a guy. So he's doing bad, but for a good cause down the road. And it took me a while to finally be able to realize that I had to explain that to these Chinese printers before they would print my book. It was an interesting international business going on there.
Yeah. And it's all an educational process. It's like everybody's learning and growing, and it's like surface level. Yeah, it looks like, whoa, I don't know about that, and then you get to get in a little involved more in the story, and usually, like most things in life, it's like it's never as bad as you initially think.
Yeah.
But so with all that being said, what do you think will come from vigilante combat that will like enhance your character and all the other characters in the game?
I think a lot of people who are in indie comics are doing it for their own love of telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of them have kind of like they want to have done this on the bucket list. They want to check it off because there's not a whole bunch of money in comics, and we all know that, right? So they're doing it so they can say that they've done it, so they can tell their stories, so they can share their dreams and nightmares overnight with their fans. And I totally respect that. For me, my character is now going to be in this awesome video game, and that's what I get out of it. I don't know how much it'll grow the character, but maybe it will. But I just don't know that yet. Right now, I'm just happy to be on the team and spreading the message.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Like, so for the story elements of the game, what will they do for your character?
Oh, so my character has the guns with blood bullets, so he's going to shoot, and there's going to be blood trails through his bullets. So that's going to be kind of a little bit of graphic there. Also, he's going to have kung fu moves in addition because he's in China, so he's learning kung fu. He's going to have this 90s goth look to him because I just love that look. So that's how I drew the character. And that's I kind of see that being the game. Bullets, blood bullets, kung fu, and 90s rock.
Okay. So
And
the
then-
story will be more so in just how he his persona and how he carries himself.
In the arcade mode, he's going to have to go against the villain in the end. I haven't really thought that all the way through yet. There's so many different aspects of the stories that I've written regarding him. I have to decide what I want to reveal to the game player. Do I want to reveal information from comic book number 8 that's not been printed yet? This is something that the comic book creators, we have to decide. Are we going to put spoilers out there for some of our fans? That's yet to be decided.
I would like if I had a character in the game, I think I would approach it from like somewhat of a Marvel post-credit scene standpoint, to where it's something that adds without taking away from something else coming in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You get me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this many creators, that's part of the hardship of doing crossovers. Is you have all these different creators with different interests, and then Ares has to gather all of us together and put us into a pot that can work together and seamlessly too. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that comes together. But the gameplay is looking great. The graphics are looking great. The backgrounds. Oh, here's something. We have this thing in St. Louis where I'm from. It's called the Beats Battle, and they've been going for years. Where every month, people that create beats for EDM or for hip hop, these background beats are created, and then they put them against each other, and there's a vote, there's a crowd, and there's a judges, and then the best beats win, I suppose you could say. And a lot of those winners are putting their beats in the game. So now we have all these indie award-winning beats from Beats Battles are going to be the background to our indie comic book characters fighting. It's just kind of a cool correlation there.
That's cool. Yeah. So how much of the game, because I know you're doing a Kickstarter, so how much of the game is already completed versus you're needing funding to finish the rest of it?
Yeah, so the characters are done up. I think we're going to have a couple, pay the couple hundred or what have you and have your character drawn into the game. We're going to have that in the Kickstarter tiers. So we haven't filled 100% of all the spots, but most, like 90% of them we have. Mm-hmm. And we have the fighting for at least a third or half of the characters, the moves and such. We have the backgrounds. Like I said, we have the music. We're just getting it from the Beats Battle group. So I think that I would say 80% there, really. At this point, it's just mapping out the moves for the final characters that we have to finish doing. So we're close, but I wouldn't say we're done, but I'd say we're close.
Right. Okay. So are there plans, I know in the fighting game community, tournaments are a big thing. Are there plans to do once the game is released to do sort of this grand tournament to help kick it off or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. We have the 1v1 and 3v3 on Steam. So that's going to be, a kind of online playing with your friends and across the world. Do we end up doing a staged official tournament? Yes. Does that happen month 1? Probably not. So we'll have to wait and see how that comes about. I think we want to build a community first and get some of the bugs. Remember, this is beta, so we're gonna get some bugs worked out and keep moving forward.
What are common bugs in beta fighting games?
There's not that many. I mean, fighting games are generally, they're difficult to create like every game, but they're not nearly as difficult as a lot of those open world types of games. Mm-hmm. This is kind of straightforward. So it's more about making sure that the characters line up next to each other with every type of hit exactly right, and they're not crossing over each other. That kind of graphic element will have to be made sure it works. Also, the different characters, different sizes. And so does their size impact where their body is at compared to their character? These are the things that I would guess, but mostly that's really it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would say graphic elements.
Right, just hit boxes and stuff like that.
That's already set right now. The hitboxes are set. So if the hitbox, I mean, does my arm go through the face or does it hit the front of the face? If I'm a bigger character versus a smaller character, you see what I'm saying? And so I think that's part of what Ares is working on right now, making sure that all that where it looks really good. And it I think it looks amazing.
So I got two more questions for you. What would you say at this? Whoops, my phone is not on silent. That is.
Oh, that's fine. Nobody worries. We're good.
Anyways, I was gonna ask, like that just robbed me of my whole brain. That one little ringtone.
You have two more questions.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, what at this point, what is your favorite part of the game outside of your character being involved?
Yeah. The best part is the fact that it's all indie. That's cool. And then when you actually see like the opening moves or the opening intros of the characters, those are so well done by Ares. They just look so beautiful. Those are pretty much my two favorites, is how great the art is, and then also that it's all these independent characters' stories that are incorporated. That's really what makes this different than other kinds of games you're going to find on Steam.
I'm not that much of a gamer. Like, how many indie fighting games are there available on Steam?
I don't know how many, but I would say that most of them that you're going to find are going to be kind of like, think back towards Nintendo time, back when we were kids. Like you're a side scroller and you're doing the old X-Men game or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it has that kind of generic cartoonish look. That's what most of these indie games are. This is not. This one here is full on Marvel versus Capcom, Killer Instincts, Mortal Kombat feel. It feels that way. So anyone can see it when they watch the video and the trailer. They can see that it's like that.
Okay, and the ultimate question: how much is this all going to cost somebody to play?
Right. So we're still hammering down on the money, but we think it's going to be $29. Is what we think we're going to charge. It is an independent creation, so people are saying, "Hey, allow for the supporters to pay more because they want to support the independent creators." But we also want to hit the market and have a good market impact on Steam. So we want to make it be a reasonable price. And I think $29 launch is a fair price.
Yeah, okay. So unfortunately, I don't play video games like that. So I have no idea. You could have told me, oh, $70. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. I mean, if that's how much it costs, that's how much it costs. Yeah. But,
I think we want to really get as many players as we can. And so if we end up charging a little less, like $29, but we get more players to jump on board, pricing is tough. There's an old business saying that everybody gets pricing wrong. So we're probably going to get it wrong too. But we think being approachable and fair price, $29 is a good price.
Are there like good, do y'all have like cool like add-on features or like
Absolutely.
products?
Yeah, you can do extra tiers for additional skins, Kickstarter exclusive costumes for the characters. We have an art book. We have the first issues of each of the characters. You can get a tier on the Kickstarter for the first issues of each of the characters, which is kind of cool. We have T-shirts and other merch like that. No action figures at this point. People asked about that. People love action figures, but none of that yet. But mostly it's going to be additional skins and in-game bonuses like a special move or insight into the character that no one else sees. These kinds of secrets we're going to be having.
Okay, so my sort of last question, because I said there was only two, and then I've asked like maybe 20. For someone, what would you say to someone who's watched all of this and still is thinking, I might pass? Like, what would you say to them to get them to think, no, they actually need to try it?
Yeah, so this is what I'd say. Anybody who's watched this to the end, they have an interest in indie. That's just truth. Why else are they watching this, right? So when you back us for the $29, that's $1 per creator. It's just really not that much money. Spread the love. The cool thing about Ares as the creator is he actually is doing all this work, but he's giving us a portion of the proceeds. Each creator does. And so when you back at the game, you're backing the game creator and the game functionality, but you're also backing the creators of the stories. And I think last year I backed 60 Kickstarters, and I need to do even more. I need to really help the creators all that I can, because $5 here, $5 there, who cares, right? It's no big deal. If you can put in $29 and it affects 20 people, that's a win.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all I got for you. So unless there's anything else you want to add in, like.
I'm good on it. I appreciate you bringing up my character. I love my comic series, and I'm just glad to see it in a game. And maybe if there's a watcher here who has a character in a comic book and they want to see it in the game as well, follow the Kickstarter and then choose that tier that gets your character in there. We're only going to be accepting a couple that way. So first come, first serve, really.
And that's to be like actual playable characters, not just in the background.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds well. Yeah, I'm like, for someone that could be a dream come true, because just like you were saying, y'all probably weren't thinking, oh yeah, what's my finish move or whatever. But I know there's someone out there that's like, oh, I know it. I've got a finish move. I know what the grab animation looks like. You know, they're ready to go with that. So yeah, now that would be the tier I would definitely put the money on. That's definitely going to be the one.
Yeah, I think there's a good number of comic creators who are interested. They've been reaching out to us, and we keep pushing them to the Kickstarter and say, hey, if you're interested, you got to be a backer, you know? So yeah, that's the next stage.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm very excited for you, and very excited for indie comics in general. Like the success, not to put too much pressure on you, but the success of this Kickstarter and this game definitely has a opportunity to make like a great cultural impact. So
thank you.
I
appreciate
very wishing y'all all the luck when it comes to this, and you know, everything to get it to just keep pushing it to the next level to where it is getting released on Xbox and PlayStation.
Right. And how cool could that be for indie comics? Even if you're not getting your character in the game and you're just playing the game, but you're an indie comics fan, your community is getting some publicity here. Your community is being seen. It's getting some traction. So I really love the indie community, and I feel people who do. I love communicating with them and doing podcasts like with yourself and meeting them on Facebook and such like that. We're a cool community, and we just are supporting each other so much. It makes me happy.
Me too. Right here. So right here in the Ventura. But so yeah, thanks Rick for coming and sharing with us today, helping shed some light on, as you said, this great opportunity for indie comics. And hey, everybody watching, definitely go at a very minimum, go check out the Kickstarter. Click the link, go check out the Kickstarter. I'm sure there's one edited across the screen here. Scan the code, check out the Kickstarter. Hey, and if you're a creator, this is a slick, a once in a lifetime chance. I've never been offered an opportunity to have a character in a video game before, and this is that moment. So if you're looking for a great way to, just like you said, check off another thing on the bucket list, or if you just want to help make other people's dreams come true, support other creators just like you, this is a great opportunity to do so. And Vigilante Combat Round 1, coming soon to Kickstarter. So,
thanks a lot, man.
Hey, you're welcome. You have a nice one, Rick, and everyone else watching. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.